Hi, welcome to Hardcover Feedback. I'm Brandi Smits.
I'm Tracey Hill.
And today we are reviewing Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood.
Snowman, known as Jimmy before humanity was overwhelmed by a plague, is struggling to survive in a world where he may be the last human, and mourning the loss of his best friend Crake and the beautiful and elusive Oryx whom they both loved. In search of answers, Snowman embarks on a journey with the help of the children of Crake through the lush wilderness that was so recently a great city until powerful corporations took humanity on an uncontrolled genetic engineering ride. While on this journey, Snowman reveals the events that led up to his current reality.
Opening up their sack, the children chorus, "Oh, Snowman, what have we found?" They lift out the objects, hold them up as if offering them for sale. A hubcap, a piano key, a chunk of pale green pop bottle smoothed by the ocean, a plastic Bliss Plus container, empty, a Chicky Knobs bucket of nubbins, ditto, a computer mouse, or the busted remains of one with a long, wiry tail. Snowman feels like weeping. What can he tell them? There's no way of explaining to them what these curious items are or were. But surely they've guessed what he'll say, because it's always the same. These are things from before. He keeps his voice kindly but remote. A cross between a pedagogue, soothsayer, and a benevolent uncle, that should be his tone. Will they hurt us? Sometimes they find tins of motor oil, caustic solvents, plastic bottles of bleach, booby traps from the past. He's considered to be an expert on potential accidents, scalding liquids, sickening fumes, poison dust, pain of all kinds. These, no, he says, these are safe. At this they lose interest, let the sack dangle. But they don't go away. They stand, they stare. Their beachcombing is an excuse. Mostly they want to look at him because he's so unlike them. Every so often, they ask him to take off his sunglasses and put them on again. They want to see whether he really has 2 eyes or 3. Snowman, oh snowman, they're singing, less to him than to one another. To them, his name is just 2 syllables. They don't know what a snowman is. They've never seen snow. I thought that this was another great example of a really interesting nonlinear type book where you get the end at the beginning, but then you keep going back and getting parts that led to that point. So we know that there was some kind of apocalyptic situation, and somehow Jimmy/Snowman is left alive, but it takes a really long time for us to get there.
Really long time.
But I don't hate it though. Like, I don't mind it. I know you're not as, your opinions of this book are less than my opinions of this book, but I enjoyed it for the most part. I'll say that much.
Okay, well, it started out, a little complex. We have to get the background because really this very beginning passage tells us almost nothing about what happens. I mean, we get more off the jacket copy than the very opening of the book. So yes, devastation. Jimmy is the only one around like himself that he knows of. So who are these other people? These other people are not your typical human. They're human, but they're other. And that all stems from the backstory, which has to do with genetic engineering, which was heavily done by people like Jimmy's parents. And also Jimmy's best friend, Crake, his parents also genetic engineers. What do? They raise a couple of kids to be genetic engineers. So there's several generations of genetic engineering going on where these very small clusters of people who work and live at these engineering labs are splicing different kinds of animals together, and then they foray into tampering with human traits. And you end up with the mess that we see at the
Right.
start of the book, but we have no idea exactly how it got that way.
And it's interesting because you watch Jimmy be a part of it and be a part of the genetic engineering and living off of it and, you know, profiting off of it. But you also see him not wanting anything to do with it.
Yeah, he's
So it's interesting that he is one of, well, maybe the only, this is the first one in a series, so we should probably state that.
it's a trilogy.
It's a trilogy. So at this point in time, saying that he's the only human left, I feel like we can't really say that.
That's what he
because-
knows. As
yeah,
far as he knows
that
he's it.
He's it. But I haven't read the rest, and I don't think you've read the rest
I'm
of
not
it either.
going to.
So we don't really know if
we
he
can't
really
say
is.
too much
He might not
else
be.
about it. As far as this goes, though, we do get into, you know, how it is that he survived. But well, before that, you mentioned his disengagement with the genetic engineering. He backs away from it, whereas Crake, who we only see through Jimmy's eyes ever, throws himself into it, and he's a genius with it, apparently. And when they're both younger, you know, teens and then getting into college years, that's where a lot of the focus of the story is, to explain how everything just blew out the way it did.
Well, and we also should mention Oryx.
But she's barely in it.
But it's
I
like,
mean,
and that's what I was just going to say. Oryx is a trophy character.
yeah.
She doesn't have a whole lot of personality. She doesn't have a whole lot of development. We know that when Jimmy and Crake were younger, Jimmy thinks he saw her on
some seedy
yeah,
website.
some
and
pornographic website,
Yeah.
and he thinks that he saw her, and then he's been like holding on to this image of her for like a decade,
Yeah.
and then somehow he happens to find a girl that he assumes is really her, and that's it.
It's, yeah, I mean, if you strip away everything about the genetic engineering and the eventual apocalyptic blowout that happens, then we're left with the title characters and Jimmy. And, you know, the jacket copy even says it's a love story. It's not a love
There's
story.
no love in
It's very
here.
weak.
No.
It's more of a rivalry between two great friends over this woman who remains an unknown quantity. I mean, she's very private about herself. What backstory we see of hers is really unremarkable and very brief.
Well, and I
considering
feel
the
like
attention the
it's
rest of them
also
get.
very gratuitous.
Yeah,
Like,
it's,
if Oryx is in fact this girl, which I guess we're assuming she is because we go to this girl's like
that's the idea.
existence,
anyway, yeah.
but it's very gratuitous in its portrayal of her involved in this like child selling market thing, and it doesn't fit. It's not necessary.
No, she's more symbolic. She's like an emblem of something rather than a real character herself. And if Margaret Atwood, who's done so many other fantastic things that give real life and depth to female characters and give female characters great voices, if she was trying to do something ironic here or something, I don't know what she was trying to accomplish, but it just doesn't work.
But that's what it feels like. It feels like it was almost like, how can I'm going to write a book that's going to have the least important female character ever just to prove that it's wrong or something like that. Like, I don't know.
The guys get all of the...
Like, this book should be called Snowman.
Yeah.
It should not be Oryx and Crake.
It's more his story, and they're just kind of in the background. And it was very unsatisfying. I don't know why it was structured the way it was. The story itself was not terribly compelling as science fiction. I'm sure she did a lot of research into the genetic engineering component, but I've read far better science fiction treatments of that particular thing. And as far as it goes as a love story, it just wasn't.
No,
it was,
there's no love.
No, and I don't, if she was trying, whatever she was trying to accomplish was so subtle that it blew right past me, and I have no idea what it was, and what remained there that I could see, I didn't like.
So, okay, I enjoyed parts of it, so because of that much, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars, which I almost feel is being generous.
Yeah.
But when I got done, I didn't hate it. It's been more, as I've been contemplating it, I've been disliking it more. So my instinctual reaction is 2.5 stars.
Okay. Partly because I wanted to like it better, and because generally Margaret Atwood's an author I trust. I still gave it 1.5, which is probably being way too generous with it. This has been Hardcover Feedback. We reviewed Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, and remember, you can find this title and all the other titles we review at your local library.